If a higher power were to take the measure of all of human civilization, do you think that it would look kindly upon us? Throughout history, humanity has committed countless atrocities. War, slavery, torture, induced famines, taxes, sexual violence. Nearly every way that humans can hurt one another has been repeated again and again for millennia. If any one man were forced to bear witness to the full scope of civilization, to drink in all of the madness and suffering that it entails, it would no doubt shatter his mind so thoroughly that what would remain could hardly even be called a human being. Now, where there once existed a man, there would only exist a hollow shell that bears a human shape it no longer deserves. Such a thing would have no mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry out in suffering. In this sorriest of sorry states, all that this thing would have left is the name of the man it once was, Sid Meier. Sid Meier was born in 1954 in Ontario, Canada, to parents of Dutch and Swiss descent. Conferred Canadian and Swiss citizenship from birth, Sid Meier was already doomed to be a man of dualities, torn between two worlds, yet with nowhere to belong. It's no surprise, then, that his fractured nature would bleed into his work as a game director, manifesting itself in some of the most chilling video games ever created. In his 2016 title, Sid Meier's Civilization VI, the objective is for the player to build a civilization from scratch, starting in the ancient era and carrying it all the way through to the modern age and beyond. The game provides AI-controlled opponents, but to truly grasp Sid Meier's vision, one must take advantage of the game's built-in multiplayer to face off against real people in head-to-head, competitive multiplayer matches. However, the more players there are in a match, the less acutely one feels the moral weight of their actions. With 10 players, human opponents almost feel no different from the AI. Pillaging their tiles, conquering their cities, destroying their empire, it's all so impersonal. The same cannot be said, however, when competing in the cruelest of Civilization VI formats, the 1v1 duel. Steel yourself, for today we're going to be discussing the existential horror of Civilization VI duels. Normally, when I make a video like this, the first step I take is to familiarize myself with the topic, to thoroughly study it until I understand it inside and out. Unfortunately, however, there are some things in this world that defy understanding. Every time I think that I've suffered the full scope of what Civ 6 duels have to offer, the game finds a new way to torment me. It's almost like it's alive. Perhaps the most impressively horrifying part of Civ 6 Duels is that no two matches are the same, ensuring that the agony of playing it never becomes dulled by familiarity. Each and every duel is a personalized hell, a masterpiece of torture that digs deep into the psyches of its victims in order to unleash their greatest fears. I can't tell you what the game has in store for you. For that, you'd have to play it yourself. All I can do is share my own story. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the name Alsign?
Alsign? I used to be on a team with that guy.
Alsign? That guy gives me the heebie-jeebies.
You know you can out-sim him, but suddenly he pops 6 cabs in your backline.
The way he played could barely be described as human.
Alsign? Didn't that guy serve in the IDF?
He's crazy, man.
He'd donkey into the other team while draining all of our resources, somehow managing to torture both teams at once.
No matter who you ask in the Civ 6 community, the name Alsign is sure to elicit a strong response. A veteran that has endured hundreds of duels, this thing that was once a man now mindlessly haunts the Looking for Game channel of the PPL Discord server, preying upon anyone foolish enough to challenge it. In our match, its hostility was evident even from just the draft. Alsign locked in the civilization of Nubia, an aggressive pick characterized by its access to the Pitati Archer, which replaces the standard archer and is packing additional movement points and combat strength. In response, I locked in the civilization of Congo. This Civ's unique swordsman gains extra combat strength when defending against ranged attacks, allowing it to serve as a powerful counter to Nubia's archers. Furthermore, Congo's military units can ignore the movement cost of woods and rainforests, giving me an edge in scouting and maneuvering in the early game. I load into the duel to find that I've been blessed with an incredibly strong spawn, sporting a 2-3 ivory tile in my capital's first ring. Then, unbelievably, I'm able to meet all 3 city-states in the duel before my opponent, granting me free envoys that provide immediate bonuses. Hunza even has an easy city-state quest. By sending it a trader, I'm already only 1 envoy away from becoming its suzerain. Do you see what's happening here? Hope. The game is giving me hope. With this RNG, the game has signed a promise that I can win this time, and even that I might have fun in the process. A promise, of course, that it had every intention of breaking. Already, I can see the military score of Alsign beginning to steadily climb. He's coming, I think to myself, but I'll be prepared. I know that before he can get to me, Alsign must first make his way through the city-state between us, Buenos Aires. Unable to defend it, I post a scout next to the city's border, a solitary witness to an impending massacre as Nubian archers surround the city. However, as I watch the city's health bar tick lower and lower, a thought begins to slither its way to the surface from the darkest recesses of my mind. Join the attackers, it whispers. The city will soon be Alsign's. Before he lays claim to it, burn its buildings to the ground. Slaughter its people lest they become slaves to his empire and one day move against you. Almost as if possessed, my hand tightens around my G502 and gives the scout its order. In the wake of this atrocity, I felt nothing. When I first realized that I would be dueling against the Toilet, my first thought was, wow, isn't this the guy who played so many duels he broke the CPL leaderboards? My second thought was, oh my god, they made my greatest fear into a human being. Let's start with the first thought. A few years ago, the #1 community for multiplayer Civ 6 was a Discord server known as the CP League. Each player had an ELO rating which would increase when they won and decrease when they lost, with the best players being featured on the server's leaderboards. There was very little interest in playing duels in this server, so rather than getting their own leaderboard, duels were instead counted towards a player's free-for-all rating. This worked fine for a while until the day that Toilet came along. Toilet had a special talent for singling out the newest, weakest, and most vulnerable members of the CP League and challenging them to duels. Through this method, he was able to extract so much ELO rating that he climbed all the way to the top of the free-for-all leaderboard just from playing duels. This sparked a backlash so strong that the moderators ultimately stepped in and changed the rules. Toilet was exiled from the free-for-all leaderboard, sent to live out the remainder of his days atop a separate leaderboard CPL had built that only tracked duels. It was quiet, it was lonely, and it was better than that monster deserved. Like many Americans, I've never really felt safe in a bathroom. It's not for the typical reasons. As far as I'm aware, I'm not trans. It's because, like most YouTubers, I didn't finish potty training until I was 12 years old. Toilets have just never really sat right with me. The sterile, off-white coloring, the cold porcelain seats that send shivers up my spine, the way that they suck my excrement, once a part of my own body, down the drain with such force that I have to cover my mouth lest a stray piece of feces find its place between the wrong set of cheeks. So yeah, I'm afraid of toilets. And now, as fate would have it, I have to duel against one. My start this time is a mixed bag. Toilet had the better luck in the pre-game draft, affording him the opportunity to play as one of the strongest civilizations in the format, Gaul, while I was stuck leading the comparatively weak Incan civilization. However, as if sensing my sour mood, the game blesses me with a 3-2 banana tile right next to my capital. I know that these bananas are a false hope, that the game is just building me up so it can knock me down, but I can't help myself. These bananas make me think that I can win this one. However, it doesn't take long for reality to come crashing down on me, as the first settler I produce is almost immediately spotted by Toilet's starting warrior. This already sets me massively behind, as it delays the settling of my second city and forces it into a suboptimal location. The cruelty of Civ 6's game design carves a fresh dose of trauma into my soul for the first time this duel, but not for the last. For while my second settler tries to head in a safer direction, it merely meets the same fate as the first. One of Toilet's units blocks its path. How is it even possible for a scout to be here this quickly? The realization hits me the same way my father used to, painfully and suddenly. The Nabib Sand Sea. This natural wonder grants recon units an additional 1 movement point per turn for the rest of the game. Toilet must have found this wonder with his first scout and used it to sneak around to my west. It's a perfect avalanche of misfortune. I want to end my live stream on the spot, curl up in the corner of my room, and just scream until my throat gives out. But I still have a duel to play, and my viewers are counting on me. I should be able to come back from behind. Alsign did. My game against Alsign did not end with the destruction of Buenos Aires. Alsign is many things: a troll, a jackass, a loudmouth, a gooner, and even a former member of the Israeli armed forces. But he's not a quitter, and so we played on. Hoping to outscale my opponent by playing defensively, I go for a standard commercial hub opener, taking advantage of the God of War and Plunder Pantheon alongside Congo's bonus that grants 50% extra great merchant points. With these effects, my empire's baby factories produce merchant after merchant, the perfect human sacrifices to satiate my greed. I'm granted extra trade route capacity in exchange for capitalist blood, allowing me to grow my cities through the use of internal trade routes. Alsign nips away at my border with a couple of archers, but they're practically powerless against my unique swordsman, and the early game concludes uneventfully. Eventually, on turn 51, I recruit my first great general, and upon noticing that my opponent has neither a general of his own nor any advanced military units, I elect to test the waters by launching a surprise offense. To my delight, Alsign is completely unprepared, and my units reach his city without much resistance. Then, the game throws a curveball. The first session of the World Congress is upon us. I take this opportunity to spend all of my diplomatic favor banning the construction of buildings in city centers. The resolution passes, and with no choice but to obey the divine command of the World Congress, the citizens of Alsign's most vulnerable city cease production on their nearly finished walls. This seals their fate, and the city is razed to the ground shortly thereafter. Following this, my units are forced into a hasty retreat, Nubian knights hot on their tail. As the heroes of my conquest return home and prepare their defenses, I'm suddenly made keenly aware of the fact that the very same World Congress resolution I had happily voted for just a few turns ago now serves to prevent me from building defensive walls of my own. Sid Meier has done it again. In a twist of bitter irony, my own arrogant bloodlust is my undoing, as the Nubian knights stroll right past the non-existent walls of my border city and lay waste to its residents. I produce as many knights of my own as I can, pumping them out of every city as quickly as possible, but I'm limited by my lack of access to iron. Without enough units to defend myself, another city quickly falls, and my will is thoroughly broken. Still reeling from the violent shattering of my own ego, I barely managed to choke out the hardest words I've ever had to say in my entire life. GG. And so, one day later, there I was, facing down Toilet in a duel and desperately seeking a win to soothe my bruised ego. Between the harassment from scouts delaying the founding of my first 2 expansions, and Toilet having access to Gaul's unique industrial zone for extra early game production, I stood no chance of outcompeting him for any of the ancient or classical era world wonders. If there's any possible future where I win this game, it wouldn't be because I had better cities than Toilet, it'd be because I had more cities than him. And so, a plan forms in my head. I'll rapidly expand by producing a ton of settlers, claim as much territory as possible, and grow my cities as populous as possible using Inca's unique terrace farm improvement. My people won't be happy, but that matters not. The Incan civilization has the ability to ignore the yield penalties from having insufficient amenities. Before I can begin building my empire of misery, however, I have to shore up my defenses, building an encampment in my second city and the warlord's throne in my capital. I can't allow Toilet to catch me with my pants down, despite what his name would suggest. It's only once I feel safe that my expansion begins in earnest. I pump out settlers, I build out my terrace farms, and despite still being behind, it seems like I have enough momentum to stage a comeback. Then, it dawns on me. I have no way to generate the necessary era score for a medieval era golden age. I've come so far, fought so hard, yet in the end, the whole game is going to be decided by a single number being a bit too low. I can't accept this. I won't accept this. There has to be some way I can win this game even after suffering a dark age. I managed to build the Great Library, my first wonder of the game. I can't let Toilet have all of them. I start filling out the campuses of every city in my empire, but my science continues to fall further and further behind. This calls for drastic measures. The people of Bologna have conspired against me for far too long, and they must pay the ultimate price. For a brief moment, it looks like it's working. My science is actually higher than Toilet's. With my Dark Age giving way to a Heroic Age shortly thereafter, surely I have a chance to win this. Right? Shaking off my doubts, I pick my 3 Heroic Age dedications: Hic Sunt Draconis, Heartbeat of Steam, and To Arms. I settle several new cities in quick succession, all of them jump-started by Hic Sunt, but it's all just delaying the inevitable. Toilet's first tank hits the battlefield while I've just barely started researching the rifling technology, and my units begin dropping like flies. Walls go up in my city of Fighting in the Toilet, then in the city of Toilet the Smallest. If I can just buy enough time, just hold out long enough to unlock the ability to produce tanks of my own, maybe, just maybe, I can win this game. However, as Toilet's tank army makes its way to my capital city, all I can do is just close my eyes and accept my fate. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you want to catch me playing full games of multiplayer Civ 6 live, you can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Herson100. Starting on October 20th, I'll be playing at least one duel a day at 5 PM EST for at least 5 days as part of the Peace Partner League's 1v1 World Championship Tournament. You won't want to miss it. That's all for now. Herson signing out.